Cervical cancer is one of the most preventable cancers we face today, yet more than 13,000 women will be diagnosed in 2026 and over 4,000 will lose their lives. Many of these cases happen because screening wasn't done in time. Even with the HPV vaccination, regular screening is still essential. More than half of new cervical cancer cases occur in women who have never or rarely been screened. At LabCorp, we're here to support those conversations and prevention. Visit our women's health page on labcorp.com.
When was the last time you felt in control of your business finances? Expenses tracked, invoices sent, taxes ready. That's where Found comes in. Found brings your banking, bookkeeping, invoicing, and taxes together in one simple app. Manage expenses, invoice clients, send payments, and prep for tax time right where you bank. Join the hundreds of thousands who have already streamlined their finances with Found. Open a Found account for free at found.com. That's FOUND.com. Found is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services provided by Lead Bank, member FDIC.
Every day, the world gets a little weirder and a lot more awesome. Cool Stuff Daily takes a look at everything from mining in space to the latest in the fight against cancer to how AI is, basically changing everything. It's all the cool stuff you didn't know you needed to know. Join us for Cool Stuff Daily as we take a quick look at science, tech, and the wait, what stories that make you sound way smarter at dinner. Subscribe to Cool Stuff Daily now, because the future's happening fast, and it's way too fun to miss.
More sail, cried the sparrow.
You're listening to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand.
Welcome, everybody, back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another Sailing into Oblivion podcast. We have a very special guest that we actually reconnected after some 13 years or so. I first ran into Shane working together down at the Bitter End Yacht Club in the British Virgin Islands. And then after a year doing the sailing instruction, he shifted over to become a dive master and go under the sea instead of upon the waves, which is kind of part of Shane's MO. He likes to try anything and everything under the sun. And much like myself, he's kind of lived a bit of a nomadic life, and we have quite a few different things in common that, one might not expect right in the beginning. But, he's just put out his first book, one that I don't want to spoil it, but he's been working on for quite some time in the conceptual stage, but now it's available, and links are going to be in the description for every way that you can order and then find out more information about Shane. But yeah, we had a pretty deep convo. We got off into the weeds a lot, and I think it was actually a really thought-provoking sort of conversation that we had, and I'm really, really glad we were able to have it. Now, there is one small caveat, and that would be that I am having some pretty substantial tech issues. You'll notice that there's been a bit of a delay since the last show, and unfortunately, we're starting to get to a point where we need to make a few changes because things just don't seem to be working the way they used to. Now, I have cleaned up the audio as absolutely best as I can, going through with Audacity and trying to isolate and everything like that, but essentially, believe it or not, when I first listened to it, I thought we were just going to have to scrap the whole thing. And it's always really upsetting because it seems like when we have a really good guest on the show or a really interesting subject, tech usually ends up being a bit of an issue. But I think I salvaged it. I think I did a pretty good job. I'll let you be the judge of that, and hopefully you can get past any sort of weirdness in the audio levels and see it for what it is, and I think it is a pretty good conversation. So if you want to help support the show, please check out the links in the description for all of my stuff, ways that you can support via becoming part of the Patreon family. One-time donations, Venmo, PayPal, all those links are in the description, plus my book and Shane's book, which I think is going to be a great read. I already ordered my copy, so we're gonna dive into that. But link to the Amazon or the Amazon link will be in the description for that, as well as his website, so you can see some of his art, photography, all that stuff. He's a man of many, many talents for sure. So hopefully you enjoy this podcast. And if you want to reach out to the show, sailingintoOblivion.com, in case you want somebody for a speaker or just want some coaching or just want to reach out to the show, tell me a story, anything like that. I love it. Absolutely. And thank you so very much for listening, spreading this podcast, and sharing it out there. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully you enjoy my conversation with, I would say, all of his credentials, but I'm going to call him author, adventurer, Shane Pollard. Thanks for listening. He gave me emu eggs. Have you ever had one of those?
Wait, no, I haven't.
Dude, the size of like a softball, except it's egg-shaped, and it is the coolest. It almost looks like jade marble mixed together, and they're heavy. Holy cow. And when you crack that sucker into your hand, you better have a big band, dude.
That's amazing.
Shane Pollard, welcome to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, man. Great to have you on the show and be able to reconnect after all these years, man.
Yeah. Oh, likewise, Fen. Thank you for having me on. This is amazing. It's been far too long.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a funny thing. I often talk to people who, have let the years kind of space out, and they'll talk to me about how they're kind of hesitant to reach back out to somebody that, maybe even they just think about every once in a while or something like that. And I mean, in my book, I have called people I haven't talked to in 15 years, and the result always is the same. It's like this great, even if it's like a 15-minute conversation, it's like, those are the things that you make their day. They make your day. I never let any time gap prevent me from being like, oh my gosh, hey, I just saw you on Instagram. Shane, what's going on, dude?
It's so true. I mean, you and I both have lived lives where we're moving a lot, making friends, saying hello and getting really close and then saying goodbye. And so that happens quite a bit. And it's true, though. I've felt that hesitation. And when I've ignored it, pushed through, it's always been epic every time. Yeah,
it is. It's super fun. And this is a perfect example. And I guess for just a little bit of context, and I was trying to run the years through my head, but like you just alluded to, you and I have both lived lives kind of all over the place. And I have worked with so many groups of people in so many different ways. I was trying to figure out what years we first came together. Cause can you run down the timeline?
I think it was 2010. That's when I think I first went out to the BVI when I was 30. That first year sailing at Bitter End was, I think, 2010. And then the next 3-ish years, I was diving with Sunchaser.
Then you were diving. Yeah, because you did 1 year as a sailing instructor where you were working with all of us. And then obviously the sun was shining a little brighter on Scuba. They are absolutely the most epic dive team in the Virgin Islands, if not
the world. I would say. I mean, they are the most incredible people. I can't even say enough about them.
They're the absolute best. So we did those 4 years. So that would were you there when you must have been down there then when I left to go hike the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you left. I think it was that in the middle of that year. Was it?
It was in. I think I left right after. I want to say it was the very beginning of 2012 because I got on the trail March 3rd of 2012. So
Okay, no, that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
in that time frame, so we're looking at, I mean, like 13 years, 14 years since those days. Wow, holy cow!
So crazy. It goes by quick.
Do you feel as fortunate as I do to have found and worked in that place at the time in my life when I did it? And I mean, we were reasonably close to the same age. I got there first when I was, I believe, 30.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I mean, everything in my life, I'm so beyond fortunate, but that moment, it's indescribable. Which doesn't work well for a writer, but it was incredible. I mean, the timing, it's just a different way of life. I loved every aspect of it. The only hard part for me was, after being there for, a few years, I missed different geography, going to the mountains, going to the snow. I missed Thai food, stuff like that, but the hardest part was, there's essentially like three groups of people. You've got the local Virgin Islanders, you've got all of the other islanders, people, territories, countries coming into work there, and then you've got the tourists. And so the nature of, I think, our job was you're kind of put in front of the two groups that are pretty temporary. And so you're seeing people come and go so much. And that kind of got hard for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it's very difficult for especially the local population,
100%.
the people who are born there on Virgin Gorda or in the BVI as a whole, because I know I made lifelong friends down there.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Fortunately, I've been back there at least in the last 2 years. I'd like to, if I had my way, and this was a super successful podcast, I'd be able to go and sail my boat down there at least for a month out of the year or something, just to enjoy it. But we're getting there, I hope so.
That's awesome.
It's very difficult for guys like Kinto, Michael, and all these people.
Exactly.
You make really good friends with, you have these big experiences with, and then all of a sudden you're like, I have to go back to my country, or I have to go on this adventure. And that one is one of the tougher parts.
It's so tough, and it's crazy because it's so enriching for your life. It's so beautiful, but it's so heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah.
For everybody involved, like you said. And so I think that's the hardest part. And I think specifically because it's a tourism type role that most of those people are working, everybody involved, so there is, everyone's kind of coming and going, and that's part of the deal, but it's rough, but other than that, I don't want to weigh it down here. It was epic. And it's such an amazing place. Everything about it, I have more memories, and,
I forgot more great memories.
Exactly.
Any human should ever be able to, I think, have like that.
Seriously.
That place and the time that we were there before, the hurricane and all that.
Yes.
Everything changed. Not that it's changed all that much. Last time I was down there, and have you been back to North Sound since everything's been rebuilt?
No, I went back. I'm trying to think the last time I went back. I've been back twice. Once was on Devin's boat, living out there for about a week. He had a boat that was out there, and that was a funny one. That was awesome. And another time on another boat, but I haven't seen it since everything's been built up. I've only seen pictures.
Oh, okay. Well, I can assure you, I mean, they definitely did a fantastic job, especially at Bitter End, Sabre Rock, to kind of, I don't know, organize everything, but not change the feel of it. You still feel like you're walking straight in. And one of the things that obviously helps is that they have a lot of the Rockstar staff that they had, before.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so you walk in and you're like, oh my gosh, Bach.
Oh man.
And Sandra, all these people. And you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, this is just wonderful.
I just got chills, like imagining seeing everybody there again and being able to see them. Oh, that's amazing. That's so
Yeah.
amazing. Very
Wow.
cool. Yeah, I'm
So-
thinking, man, talking to you, I had memories of us floating on your boat around the north side there, drifting at night, the night sails with just the glow sticks on top of the Hobies, ripping out
Yeah.
through using the moon, using the mountains to line up to get out through the reef.
The reef cuts and
Yeah.
and using the breaking waves as like, okay,
Yeah, that
don't
helps.
go there. Don't go there.
Oh, it's so great.
Sometimes I definitely feel lucky to have survived and
Yeah.
that none of my staff, all of my staff made it through in one piece in one form or another.
For sure.
Because it was pretty wild down there compared to especially working in any sort of resort in the U.S. where there are a lot of rules.
Absolutely.
There were a lot of
Ironically,
rules down there.
there were. I think the biggest injury, which is hilarious, was on a Segway.
Oh my gosh, yes. Chin strap. I won't mention her name, but
Yeah.
I will never forget. I guess
The chances.
one of my staff, so I guess in some ways it's a little bit my own responsibility, but I'll tell you what, why don't you take this story?
Well, it was so random because, considering you have to take if you're flying down there, how many planes and boats to get to this magical little spot you can't drive to the bitter end, And we lived barefoot for pretty much the entire time you're there. And the fact that somehow a Segway got there, which was on one of the mega yachts, that came in, and the fact that it was there. And so, of course, we won't mention the name, but she's beaming down probably after a few drinks, maybe a couple drinks, and beaming down the path. And there was a piece of wooden dock that was just kind of hanging up, a little bit poking up out of the edge. Hit it, the Segway stopped, and she flew like a seal leaping onto, a rock. And it was, I couldn't believe it.
And that was like that was her like first or second day. I think at the resort under, she was one of my sailing instructors. And I definitely remember another staff really stepping up and basically driving us over, getting in the boat, going to the clinic. And I think we might have all gotten home at about 4 a.m.
Yeah.
after multiple stitches. And yeah.
But considering that was the biggest real injury, I think we fared pretty well.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't really remember too many broken bones or anything like that. At least, not from us. And like I said, we didn't have a whole lot of rules hanging over our heads. I mean, I think about there definitely was a time my brother Adam and I did the Anegada run in my 13.5-foot Boston Whaler.
Yes.
The weather turned as we were coming back. And for anybody out there who's not been, it's 13 miles out to Anegada, and it's pretty much open ocean. But you pick a good window and it's super flat and you can zoom out there. And we did that plenty of times. It was a lot of fun. But boy, when the weather turns and all of a sudden the waves are 3 feet tall and you're in that little tiny boat, you're in a bit of trouble if, you don't have much of safety equipment and all that sort of stuff. So I was lucky. We were lucky to get out of there unscathed, but I wouldn't have changed a thing, man. It was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Incredible.
Well, and that, so the BVI brought us together, and, like I said in the beginning, it's been a while since you and I have connected up, but you have done a bunch of different stuff. I've gone and done a few big sailing things. It's almost all sailing, but like you have kind of a zest for all different types of things in this world. I mean, lay down some of the timeline, maybe just some highlights. I mean, if we had 8 hours, I'd say, tell me everything.
For sure. No. And I don't know if it's zest or just infantile curiosity, but it is, maybe it's a combination of both. The curiosity is ridiculous. It's pulled me all over the place. I started out wanting to be an engineer, and got in a car accident in high school, set me back a little bit in my school. And I had transferred on so much units. I didn't need to catch up. I could graduate and then become an illustration major. Of course, that just makes sense. And then jumping around, I went to trying to get to New Zealand and ended up in Japan, essentially by almost accident, and teaching English there, and then came back and sold my paintings and did that for a while, teaching sailing, throughout that. Man, how I got into sailing, because I changed my major and I had to change schools. I was trying to get into a certain school and they wouldn't accept me because of the accreditation. And I didn't want to go through the whole 4 years at this UC school. It's going to be expensive, mentally and financially. And so I went to knock out some units at a community college, and I thought, well, I'll pick up a sailing class. I've always wanted to do it. It was this sort of like scary thing for me. I know it's hilarious talking to you about me being scared to learn to sail, but it was this thing that, I saw in movies growing up. It wasn't part of my family, and I took a community college course. I was able to sail. We sailed 4 hours each time, twice a week for 10 weeks, and it was $8. So yeah. So I took that class and it was amazing. I audited it, again, because it was the cheapest way to sail. And so I'd already taken it once. And so that second time I didn't have to take the final because the instructor knew, I had already taken the course. So he goes, go rig up the boats and we can get more sailing time in. I was like, sweet. So I go down and I'm rigging up the boats on the dock, and this guy comes by and he goes, hey, it's a great day for a sail. And I kind of looked at him. He was a little bit kooky, but it was such a beautiful day. And I was in such agreement. I was like, yeah, you know what? It is a great day for a sail. It's amazing. We started talking and he offered me a job to teach. And I was blown away because one, I never taught anything. It was going to be teaching kids, and it was going to be teaching sailing, which I'd only had 2 semesters initially. This is before I got, US sailing certified and all that. But I was terrified. So I said, yeah, I'll do it. And that was like the start of this long journey that took me through so many different places and took me in the BVI. And, then, like I said, I sold my artwork. I came back. I did consulting. Got into 3D printing. I was an engineer for a 3D printing company. It's just been all over the shop. It just kind of keeps changing, but it's been incredible. It's been fantastic.
Well, and it definitely, it rings a bell with me as far as like things that make you nervous, like opportunities that make me nervous. Those were the ones that I used to just jump at. I would just
absolutely
blanket say yes, and then I would think about it. And if it was something where I was like, oh, okay, whoa, hold on, okay, my mistake. You can correct that. But when you start out too cautious and you say, no, then that opportunity might just get shifted off to somebody else. And then there's no going back from that. So I definitely relate to that. But it's so funny how sailing would have basically, started with you being super duper nervous, but then just being like, hey, you know what? Let's just go for it and give it.
Let's do it. That's been one of my guiding principles, like how I taught English in Japan and all of that. It was just terrified to think, wait a minute, 4 months later, I'm in Japan and all these things. But it's funny because, and I'm thinking about this now, because reading your book, you talk about things that you had fears while you were sailing, moments where you were scared about this or that or concerned. And it was interesting because for all I had known you, you were always, go get them. You could do anything. And this like beacon of, I'm going to tackle the world. And you always did, And so it was interesting because I don't even think I'd heard you utter the word fear ever once. And so it was so fascinating to read that in your book and see this other aspect. And it was a trip. It was really cool.
Well, I was doing a fantastic job of blanketing and cloaking all the fears, the anxiety, all that sort of stuff. Because every single day that I went into work, I knew that there were so many possibilities for things to go wrong. I also had a pretty crazy crew of people pretty much every year, and I never knew what to expect. But I don't know. I've always believed, though, that if you are positive and confident going into a situation, especially when you're working with other people, it has a tendency to rub off, or at least kind of get their head in that same space, if you will. It doesn't always work by any means. I mean, there's just some tough nuggets out there you're never going to crack. But yeah, I mean, I will fully admit, and if anybody listens to this show over the last couple of years, especially since 2022, when I had my accident out at sea, it's one where I have really tried to vocalize a lot of the fears and anxieties and stuff, because I realize that no matter how confident you are, everybody's got them. It's just whether or not we're admitting it to it or willing to share it. But I think it's something that we can all learn. And also, when we talk about it with other people, at least in my experience, it's a way for me to learn new tricks and ways to get over those little obstacles that can sometimes prevent us from going out and trying to live an extraordinary life.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's humanizing, and it's something we need to share. Absolutely.
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's not an easy thing to talk about, especially if you're trying to project all this like bravado, this, that, and the other thing. Ego gets in the way, all that. But I think one of the nice things is that as I've gotten older, a lot of that stuff, a lot of the vanity of it, a lot of the ego is just falling right by the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, it definitely happens once you get a little seasoned. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You start looking in the mirror and you're kind of like, oh boy, I think the vanity part of it drops off first. And then once you kind of get past that, I found, honestly, I started to just enjoy the fact that I never had to really look or worry about, how I look or what people might think. Because now that I'm an old man, the only time I'm trying to be very presentable is when I go up on stage, and that's it. After that, it doesn't matter. Even the Mona Lisa's falling apart. I don't know what movie that's from. I think it might be Ocean's 11 or something, but that was one of my favorite quotes.
Yes. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. I'll think of it.
When you go and you do all these different things and you explore all these options, and from teaching English to actually writing a book. And I unfortunately just found out about this book, and I cannot wait to order my copy on Amazon. And oh baby, I'm going to rate you. I'm going to rate honestly.
Please do. Please do.
I will indeed. But no, can you tell us about the book a little bit without any spoilers?
Yeah, no, I'm a big anti-spoiler, so I'm gonna just kind of dance around it a bit. It's basically I'm calling it a literary thriller. It's a little different than a typical thriller. It's about a very, very close group of friends, and their lives are shattered when one of them is murdered in front of the rest of them, and a young daughter is left behind. She's got nowhere to go, and she's taken in by one of the friends in that group, and his name is Tristan. And the story it follows Tristan trying to figure out how to be a father figure, and he has no idea what he's doing. And he's a single guy. He's an artist. He's got no kids. He's got no plan really, but he gets help from the others in the group to kind of figure it out. And then he quietly decides that he's gonna find the guy that killed his best friend. And so that's when the thriller element, really jumps in. It's
Cervical cancer is one of the most preventable cancers we face today, yet more than 13,000 women will be diagnosed in 2026 and over 4,000 will lose their lives. Many of these cases happen because screening wasn't done in time. Even with the HPV vaccination, regular screening is still essential. More than half of new cervical cancer cases occur in women who have never or rarely been screened. At LabCorp, we're here to support those conversations and prevention. Visit our women's health page on labcorp.com.
When was the last time you felt in control of your business finances? Expenses tracked, invoices sent, taxes ready. That's where Found comes in. Found brings your banking, bookkeeping, invoicing, and taxes together in one simple app. Manage expenses, invoice clients, send payments, and prep for tax time right where you bank. Join the hundreds of thousands who have already streamlined their finances with Found. Open a Found account for free at found.com. That's FOUND.com. Found is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services provided by Lead Bank, member FDIC.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating melon serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
This is Mike Bolo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
Like I said, there's some dark humor in there. There's a lot of, I have these sort of like your book where you have the logs interspersed, throughout the book. There's chapters like that are kind of conversations between Tristan and the reader. And it's hopefully makes it a little more intimate than a typical thriller. So there's a little more depth in that sense, but it's definitely not the traditional way of doing things in that sense.
Well, one of the things I just want to say is I got to take my hat off to you because when I wrote Sailing into Oblivion, I'm telling basically a memoir of or a retelling of the account of this trip that I went on, and I have logbooks and I have my journals and I have like videos and all this sort of stuff to draw from. And you have basically put together an entire story, plot, characters, all this sort of stuff. And that's just coming out of your brain.
It's weird, man. I mean, so the good thing and the bad thing, or the thing that helped and also made it difficult is I had been writing it for 15, 20 years. Back in the BVI, I was working on it. But I was just, I came from an illustration background. I had sketchbooks, and that's how I wrote. I wrote in little sketches, sort of gestures of ideas in my sketchbook. And I'd come up with ideas of things that I wanted to say, and I'd, squirrel them away, and knowing that eventually I had this general goal of what the book would be. And I never really sat down to write it from start to finish until fairly recently, basically last year or the year before. And so I was trying to just jam all of these pieces together that I had thought were such gems. And it was kind of difficult because, one, they didn't necessarily all fit. Two, I'd grown so much and changed that the story had changed. And I had to axe a lot of stuff and cut it out and try to make it work. And so that was kind of the most difficult part. Once I patched together the things and just chucked the stuff I didn't, then I could sit down in earnest and write. And that was really enjoyable. I love that part. But it was a long process. And, I write everywhere while my brain's always going. I can't stop it. So I'm walking on the beach, I'm showering, I'm doing whatever I'm thinking, I'm writing. So it was a long process. Now I've got 4 or 5 other ideas for the next books that are very different. They're all over the place. And those will be written more traditionally. But once it starts, it's kind of this thing where the ideas just, they come in. I can't help it.
Did you have like from like a scheduling standpoint, once you actually started putting words down, pen to paper, did you have any sort of like time frame that you would stick to, or a schedule, so that you could actually, make it to the end of that first draft?
Yeah, once I started writing regularly, I'd make sure I'd sit down every morning and put something on the computer or on paper, and I'd do that, sit for a couple hours at least. And then sometimes they were really fruitful and they worked great and everything came out, and sometimes it was just, this masochistic sort of event where,
100% no. I mean, obviously I'm outside of journaling, since I was probably about 20 years old, pretty regularly on all sorts of travels and adventures and stuff. I was terrible student in high school, pretty much got booted out of college and finished up in a community college in Northern Michigan. I think it's safe to say that I'm not an academic by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, I would sit down there in that boat. I wrote Sailing into Oblivion while I was at anchor in North Sound and then down on Dominica. And I just sat, and that was my rule, was every single day I sit in front of this computer for a minimum of 3 hours.
Love it.
Dude, there were some days where I might have only gotten one good sentence out of it.
I feel you.
I may have even edited that out.
It's so true. It's so true.
It was brutal. And I'm sure I'm sure like Grammarly probably existed. And well, I mean, the editing process, that's a whole different topic, but the actual first draft, I mean, if I didn't have that schedule and if I didn't have the time to be able to really make that the number one focus, whatever else I wanted to do for the rest of the day, I could just go do. I didn't have to have a job for that said period of time. The job was the book. And I don't know, I think that was the only way I was able to get through it.
Oh, I completely hear you. And there's for me, there's the other aspect of, like, I think of when I first started selling my paintings, and the reason I was able to sell them is because I had been painting on my free time, and it was my outlet, and I had built up a good inventory. And so then I started selling them and basically sold out of my inventory. And then all of a sudden I had to paint thinking this one has to sell. This thing I'm doing right now is got to be finished and sell in a certain amount of time so I can, make money for food or whatever. And that just kills it. And so being able to have time that you set aside for the book and not relying on specifically this has to be done by certain time to sell, it was key, So setting aside the time, but also not having to think this has to make it. And so you could create it for your, it's more for your own self. Hopefully. Yeah, of course you want it to sell, but that mindset was critical as well for me.
Yeah. Well, and that makes so much sense because I wanted to write a second book about the Appalachian Trail. And again, I had like all the journals and I had some time, and I got maybe 35,000 words down, and I started kind of getting a bit stumped. And so I was like, well, okay, let me go back and at least do a little bit of editing. I can continue and finish the last few states. And I'm reading this thing and I'm like, this is the most boring, awful thing I couldn't even stomach it. Rather than, continue on and try and rework it and all this other sort of stuff, all of a sudden this fear came in of, dude, Sailing into Oblivion is selling. People really enjoy it. If I throw out another book that is just terrible, like that's going to be it. And I almost was like, I didn't want to really tarnish what I did with that book.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I get it, dude. There's a psychological aspect to why you're writing the book, what your expectations are. And I think you're nailing it on the head is like, you got to do it for you because you want to write the book regardless of what the outside world, I think, has to do with any of it.
100%. 100%. It's fascinating. It's funny we're talking about kind of these fears, in the psychological aspect. And that's a big chunk of, I feel like, both of our books, actually. The fears that you face going through it and in your incredible journey. And that's going to be a whole nother conversation we have because I have so many questions for you. And I know you've probably talked about it so much, but
I love it. I love it.
I got to ask you real quickly, how much propane did you bring?
Let's see. I believe I had 60 pounds of propane.
Okay.
I think that's how they measure it in pounds. Like one of the regular ones for like a grill that you see everywhere. That's, I believe, 20 pounds.
I think approximately. Yeah.
Approximately. So I believe I had 2 of those and then 2 little 10-pound tanks. So it was basically my 60. And that lasted well into the summer up in Maine.
That's incredible.
No problem at all. Now, the secret to that, though, was I was always told the biggest waste of propane on a boat for long passages is reheating water for coffee, because typically you fill up the kettle, you make a cup of coffee, but you've also boiled like an extra cup or 2 of water that you don't use. And a stove and a kettle is super inefficient waste, like the amount of heat coming out of it. Cut to the Appalachian Trail and utilizing a jet boil and all that, and realizing just how efficient it is. And,
yeah.
It made it so quick. It's dangerous on a boat to have a jet boil in your hand, boiling away as the boat is rocking, but it does make it so that you don't have to utilize the propane for that. And
yes.
So I had like 15 of those little canisters for jet boil, and that's what I primarily use for coffee, tea, and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's what saved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was like, my mind kept going back to that, which is hilarious. I have so many of those questions, but that's awesome. That's a great idea, though. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, and I needed it because I didn't have a heater on the boat. So essentially, like when my hands were numb from working sales, once I was deep in the furious 50s, where the squalls are basically hail and snow, and I had to actually go up there and like scoop. I had to collect as much of that snow and hail out of the sail as I could. But the gloves that I had were some of those scuba diver ones.
Mm-hmm. Those scuba divers.
Because, well, when you're using a stove to warm those gloves up, it deteriorates and corrodes that material. So that would start getting into the water supply. And
man.
It was like a little can of worms there. But long story short, so my hands were really cold a lot. And the only thing I could do is hold them over that stove. And if I would have blown through all the propane, then, probably would have had a pretty serious issue on my hands.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I jumped to that. Sorry. I had to know, but yeah. I was thinking, so, a big concept of in my book of the fear is that what it prevents us from doing and how it affects your daily life. And when I was reading yours, I just kept thinking how this is like the physical example of what I was trying to communicate. Essentially, I'll get a little more concrete here. So if all of our emotions are responses to our perceptions, right? And fear is an emotional response to a perceived threat or danger. And so our perceptions are a product of our experiences and what we're taught. So we can have fear responses to both actual and imagined threats and dangers. And the whole thing with that is, I don't know, I've thought about this a lot. I feel like the biggest trigger of imagined threats is the unknown. And because anything's possible, right? And so you have fears for things that are possible, but it's unknown. It could be something really good could happen or something really bad could happen. And since so much of our existence is essentially comprised of unknowns, people become afraid of just life. And that was something that I was trying to kind of push through in the book and show that how that fear just strangles our capacity for appreciation and the appreciation that we're alive. And I kept thinking about this, like while reading yours, and you went to this giant unknown, and it is like the physical manifestation of the concept that I was kind of trying to push through in the book. It was fascinating to me because there were so many unknowns with your trip. Everything was, and you didn't let that stop you. And I was just floored by that. It was amazing to see every step of the way, and you just kind of, it was a mindset. And I know a lot of people would have been broken by those fears or those unknowns, there were innumerable reading about it, and you just kept going. And you have to, I thought there was times diving where it's happened, and everything in your body is lighting up, telling you that this is not good. This is a bad situation, and you just have to snip it and do what you need to do. And it was incredible seeing you endure that through so many different situations and different over and over and over. I'm just beyond impressed, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it definitely, for sure, was leaping into the unknown without question. Mostly the Southern Ocean portion of that trip, because it's a place I had never been. It's the most isolated, dangerous, water in the world. No one can get to you. So if something does go wrong, whether it's just some stupid little part of your boat just broke and now you're sinking, so there's definitely a lot of fears there. But the actual ocean, like just heading off to go, rip across the Atlantic, because you have to go across first and then you go south, that wasn't too bad. But interestingly enough, what I was dealing with fear-wise in the beginning of that trip was all the thoughts of the unknown and what I was going to encounter once I got down to the Southern Ocean. And, in the book, I never really, I wanted to tell a tale about this adventure without kind of trying to just, I don't know. I didn't want to pontificate on a whole lot of stuff. I just wanted to give people a real deal feel of like, this is what it's like if you want to try and take an old boat around the world by yourself. Now, though, looking back on it, because I still do quite a bit of speaking, and a lot of that has transformed that story because people want to know about the fears and how I was able to kind of keep going. And just to give you an example of it, in the beginning, I'm in the Atlantic Ocean and the weather is good. The boat is doing great. I got all the food in the world. I'm headed towards the tropics. Like, this is going to be awesome. Except that in my head, every time I closed my eyes, I thought about 50-foot waves, the Southern Ocean, basically getting overcome by the elements, how long it's going to be down there, icebergs, fogs, you name it, like all these really scary things.
For sure.
I started just losing sleep. I couldn't focus. It got to a point where I did kind of feel like maybe this was a mistake. And, if I can't get my head in the game, I'm not going to last out here. I'm going to end up pulling over in the Canaries or maybe down at the Cape Verdes, or I'll just turn back to the Caribbean. And so it really took, more than anything, just that mental practice of narrowing my focus down and, leaving the Southern Ocean where it is, like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 miles away, and I'm going to focus on today and sailing this boat and what's going on right here and now. And I was just trying to like basically slap a Band-Aid on the problem. But what I didn't realize was that problem got healed underneath that Band-Aid as long as I kept doing it day after day after day after day, because, you know, days turned to weeks and then to 2 months. And so that by the time I did get to the Southern Ocean, dude, I was a seasoned West
That's
sailor.
amazing.
It was still very, very intimidating. I mean, anybody who tells you the Southern Ocean's like, oh, it's no big deal, they're absolutely lying to you. I mean, it's a ferocious place, but it's one of those things where by the time I got there, I was like, okay, now I think I'm ready. And then you go through your first couple of gales, you see some of these giant waves and the albatross and all these things. And I don't know, you kind of keep plugging away through it. And I don't think the fear ever really left me until I got out of the Southern Ocean. Like I was always kind of looking over my shoulder, like, all right, what's coming next? Because
right.
all those big systems, all those big weather, low pressure systems, man, they're troublesome, to say the least. But yeah, it was in the beginning. It was a huge aspect of that trip. And, you know, my point being, when I wrote the book, I didn't want to get into that, but I'm actually really kind of glad that now when I do these presentations, I always talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
Not only the fears, but also the solutions that I came up with, because I would, you know, when people ask like, you know, is it more physical or mental to do something like that? And it's like 99% mental. If you don't have your head in the game, and a lot of it's just the isolation, because you're alone and you're in your head. And if you can't keep that together and you can't keep yourself motivated and, you know, aware and all this sort of stuff while being sleep deprived, while constantly being jostled around on the ocean in this boat, it's just not going to, it's not something that I think human beings are made to be able to do. So you really have to keep your head in that game and like pull out every trick and every tool you've got. Cause you know, eventually you're going to make it around the world and then you're finished. So you also keep that in mind as well. I know I'm
absolutely
kind of going on a tirade there.
Absolutely. And I think it's so great about you said bringing that up when you do your presentations, because most people, you're in a very small club of people that have done what you've done. And it's a very small group, I think. And so most people won't do that. But what they will do is face challenges in their life, you know, all along the range. And so being able to learn from you in that aspect, I think is huge for people.
Well, and one of the big challenges that I have, because I still, you know, I go out and I sail, and I've been on various other voyages over the years, and I'm constantly trying to bring back those lessons, and not necessarily for other people, but for me. I have always said one of the greatest things about solo ocean sailing is that it brings out the best in me, because I don't have any other choice but to stay committed in the present and dealing with whatever is being thrown at me. Man, if I could only do that on land. It's just so easy not to do the right thing and make the hard choice. And I try, but man, it's hard.
Yes, I understand. Necessity is the driver of all. It's crazy.
Well, and honestly, that is one of the I don't know, dirty little secrets, if you will, of doing a solo nonstop around the world, is that for the vast majority of it, if you decide to quit, you are still going to have to be quitting and sailing for probably a couple of weeks before you even reach the nearest land. And, you know, that gives you that time knowing like, oh, well, I'm probably going to reconsider this little spout of doubt that I have right now. And I don't know. I mean, I suppose you could in some areas on our planet hop into the life raft and call for somebody to come get you. But when you're 1,000 miles out at sea and you barely see even shipping,
Yeah,
that option's just not really there anymore. So
for sure.
and that's I think that's what I have so much trouble with, is that option is always here on terra firma.
Yes.
And if I got real nervous about doing this podcast today, I could have so easily emailed you and be like, "Oh, dude, Shane, hey, I gotta go run an errand. I got this call, and let's reschedule for next week." And the minute we didn't do it, and you said, "Oh yeah, no worries," I guarantee I would have been like, "That was a big mistake." I did it because it
I
was
feel
easy.
Yeah, I definitely, I feel you.
It's crazy, crazy world. But I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, in all of your sort of exploits, kind of all over the world, and then jumping into like painting and doing all the different jobs, and then writing the books, and even hopping on this podcast with me. I'm sure a lot of that stuff is not. It's not something that goes by without you thinking like, oh, maybe I can get out of this.
For sure. And absolutely. And I mean, that was, I was just actually on a radio show yesterday. So I feel like some of the stuff I'm bringing up, I've just said it. So apologies anyone hears both, but that was part of what made it all happen is that fear in the maybe I can get out of it and saying, no, I'm doing it, and kind of going the opposite and doubling up. I'm absolutely doing it. If that, it's how I was able to do all of those things. It started in, I think, art school, and it's so weird. It's such a different world there. Learning to basically see and separate out your perceptions of things and what you're actually looking at, and you realize that there's so many different ways to see something. And so I decided the only way really to, one thing that limits you from seeing things in their entirety is your fears. And so that was my pact I made with myself. I wanted to experience everything. I wanted to see the whole thing. And so if something scared me, that meant I wasn't able to see it from a certain angle. And so I'm going to do it, And so there's been many times where I thought, okay, I could do this later. And it was just that pact I made with myself years ago to basically be able to experience it all. That every time, with exception, there's a couple things I've said no to, I think, but for the most part,
Well, we do have to keep, like I said, we have to keep our heads on straight.
Absolutely.
I do like to always say a blanket yes, but then I'm going to give it some thought and be like, wait a minute, okay.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, I think for me, one of the things, and having that sort of pact, it definitely resonates with me back when I started doing yacht deliveries back in my like early 20s, well before Bitter End and all that sort of stuff. If a job came up on a message board where it was like, there's a boat in Antigua and it needs to get taken to, Palma on Mallorca, leaving in 2 weeks, are you available? I would just click yes. Because I was like, I got to jump at every single one of these to gain this experience. And because I wanted to be like an ocean sailor. I had no idea I wanted to do it by myself. I just like being out there and learning the trade. And I wanted to be a captain and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I kind of did. I mean, when I would, because, when you're in the delivery game, you basically finish one job and then you're looking for another, and then you finish that and you're looking for another. So you're constantly on the hunt and you're presented with all these different options. And I think sometimes it's a good like metaphor for life as well, is that, obviously most people can't switch careers on a dime. You put a whole lot of effort into becoming like a doctor or a lawyer, and you might want to kind of commit to that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to by any means, I don't think, but it's one of those. Shoot, I'm kind of losing my train of thought on that one. I hate it when I do that.
Cervical cancer is one of the most preventable cancers we face today, yet more than 13,000 women will be diagnosed in 2026 and over 4,000 will lose their lives. Many of these cases happen because screening wasn't done in time. Even with the HPV vaccination, regular screening is still essential. More than half of new cervical cancer cases occur in women who have never or rarely been screened. At LabCorp, we're here to support those conversations and prevention. Visit our women's health page on labcorp.com.
When was the last time you felt in control of your business finances? Expenses tracked, invoices sent, taxes ready. That's where Found comes in. Found brings your banking, bookkeeping, invoicing, and taxes together in one simple app. Manage expenses, invoice clients, send payments, and prep for tax time right where you bank. Join the hundreds of thousands who have already streamlined their finances with Found. Open a Found account for free at found.com. That's FOUND.com. Found is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services provided by Lead Bank, member FDIC.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating melon serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, no, I mean, you're talking about going from job to job and picking up not different jobs, delivery jobs.
Yes.
And you're doing those back to back and how you're looking for the next thing. Yeah,
just grabbing hold of any opportunity. And there's always little tweaks here and there. No sailing trip, especially across an ocean, is ever the exact same. So again, those fears do come in. Do you ever, let me ask you, do you ever consider like the reference point of 20, 30 years down the line and looking back and sort of feeling regret of things that you didn't go after as a bit of a prod to just jump in and grab the world by the horns?
So there's 2 parts to that. One, I had when I was younger, a few things I wish I had done differently. When I was younger, I was much more timid. I'm going to say teenager and younger. I was very timid. And so there were a few things at that point that I had wished I had done, because looking at it now, I'm going, that was ridiculous. They were childhood fears, we have them. And so I decided that I'm kind of looking at those instead, and they're definitely not regrets. It's like, had I gone up and talked to that girl, and lesson. And I was so intimidated. I'm going, why didn't I go talk to her? It's little lessons. And so I kind of look at those, but the thing for me is something I've been doing for a while, where I imagine myself, and this is something I truly do, but it's funny, it's in the book that the character does. I imagine myself talking to older me. And so I imagine like 90, 100-year-old me, whether I'm in a hospital bed or I'm sitting on a rock or whatever, and I talk to that version of me and I get advice from that version. And so the idea is to really evoke what I think is the true important thing, or it kind of limits the fears. It has the perspective that I have now of looking when I was a teenager and kind of superimposing that on my life now. And it allows me to see, okay, this would be ridiculous for me to do this or not do that. And so I ask older future me for advice. And generally, older future me tells me to stop being an idiot and tells me to go for it and not worry about things and remember to appreciate things. That's generally what he tells me to do.
That is so interesting. Like I can relate to that, but on like from a very different perspective. So just for context, in 2022, I, lived through the scariest night I've ever had out at sea, got turned upside down, broke the boat, all this sort of stuff. And for almost 3 years after that, actually until this past November, I was carrying this sort of, I don't know, just this fear of heavy weather and questioning my abilities and all these things that I'm now, people pay me to help them, learn about ocean sailing, and I go out on their boats and I try and share my experiences with them. But deep down inside, I'm sitting there and I'm questioning it. And I would always, instead of picturing the older me, I kept picturing the 30 to 40-year-old me that was, post doing the Sailing into Oblivion, post Appalachian Trail, Bitter End, all that sort of stuff. And I kept on thinking, I wouldn't ask him for advice, but I'd be like, boy, he would kick my butt. He'd shake his head and he'd be like, what are you doing, man? You got to get out there.
I love it.
But at the same time, I also like to look into the future. And I think I might have to start asking this old fellow that I see, or at least that I project of me sitting on a porch, watching the squirrels, drinking coffee, reading the books, because I've done everything I ever wanted to do. And I'm so content to just watch those damn squirrels run around.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's where I want to get to. And maybe I need to start asking that guy, how do I get there?
Although I have to say, knowing you and how much we have in common, I don't know if that is possible to ever have done all the things you want to do. There's always something, right? I figure we're always going to be wanting to do that other thing or experience, just to crave experiences of life, and so
see new things and
try
new things. And they're definitely, I don't think that ever truly does die. I think you're right on that one.
But still not a bad place to be, though, sitting on the porch looking at the squirrels.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I just, sometimes I'm out there at sea and I'm going through, real heavy weather in a place I shouldn't be. And it's really freaking scary. And I'm hoping that I think about those, like that idea of sitting on a porch of a cabin up in the woods up here in northern Michigan. Like, it sounds like paradise on earth. Now, granted, that's because I'm going through a bit of like hell on earth out there. It's still beautiful, these big storms and stuff, but it's really scary because it's very intense and you're powerless in some sense. But yeah, those squirrels, man, they run around and they're so cute and fuzzy.
I love it.
I dream about it. I really do. But I don't know. I like you said, though, I don't think the want for some people ever totally diminishes to go and experience new things and see new things. But I think more than anything, I hope I get to a point where I'm content with what I was able to do. And a lot of that comes from, I think, like right from the beginning of this conversation is, facing down those fears and not letting fears of whether it's unknown or failure or ridicule or anything, you name it, letting that prevent you from saying yes to some
Absolutely.
opportunity or to some goal that you want to set for your own self and something you want to do in life.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
We're
Absolutely.
getting into some heavy stuff today, Shane. I'm not gonna lie, and I didn't 100% expect us to go way into this, but I'm glad we did, man.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah,
Really
it's
glad.
it's hard to condense so much into, such a short period. But and my brain is weird, man. I am constantly looking at the point where things overlap, different ideas, or um, where they connect. And so when I'm reading your book, I'm thinking about the stories of mine, and so that's where it draws together. And um, but hopefully I didn't go too deep for you, too
No,
dark.
oh no. That's the beauty of the podcast. I don't know if you listen to any of it. It's been going
Mhm.
on. We're entering, I think, our 5th or our 6th year. This will be episode 400 something, and it was just born out of COVID, that
Yeah.
time in our lives, which everything else got put on pause. But it has definitely been just an amazing way to sit down unobstructed, no distractions, and just have a conversation that has no, there's just there's no editing it, there's no production, there's none of the like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get so many views. I mean, you talk about doing something like writing a book and worrying about if it's gonna sell.
Yeah.
That's one thing I promised myself when I started doing these kind of talks, was like, yeah, obviously it'd be great if this thing gets a bunch of momentum behind it, but that's not why I'm doing it. I do
Yeah.
it because it's a fun experience. It's a great way to meet good old friends, new friends, and just find out fascinating things. I mean, half of the experiences that I've gone out and done, like, for example, the Appalachian Trail, that was all Bill Bryson's fault. He wrote that book, A Walk in the Woods.
Yeah.
I, you know, and that hooked me in. And so eventually, years later, I'm out there doing it. And, I think books as well as conversations are a great way to discover and sort of light the fire under your keister, if you will,
Absolutely.
to get you going and just to find out, like, because I do hear a lot of people who are like, well, I just don't know what I'd like to do, and I don't have a passion, and I don't have this or that. Well, when I speak to grade schools, that's a big portion of it, is about exploring. This is the time to explore. Nobody's, you don't worry about being successful, failing, quitting. You just get out there and see what this world has to offer. And you're going to find something that sinks its hooks right into you. And then boom, you just better hold on tight, because it's going to be a crazy ride.
It's so true, man. I taught kids critical thinking, problem solving for a bit, and we did it with these crazy sets of Lego, essentially. And we engineer things, build bridges and robotic things and all sorts of stuff. But it was a problem solving sort of task for them. And every
Yeah.
time when I started, they had the hardest time just getting going, and they didn't know where to start without having instructions in front of them, going, where you put this brick here first, you do this first. They couldn't conceptualize the fact that they could make whatever they wanted, and there were a million ways to solve it, and they didn't know what they wanted to make. And it was just that process of getting going. Once you got that wheel turning, though, they would run, and you see this transformation. So I think it's interesting to hear you say that people like don't know where to start. They don't know what their passions are. And I don't know why that is for a lot of people. But if you can start it moving, then yeah, you get your hooks in it and you're done. It's game over there. You get ready for a ride.
Yeah, well, and I think there are kind of like two types of people. Some people look at this great big world that has all this stuff and all these different paths and activities and things that you can go and do. And then on the other side of the scale, there's people who are like, this world is absolutely so huge. And I am so lost, and I do not know which way. I don't even, this is just, it's too much. But to what you're saying, as long as you just take that first step, as long as you just untie the dock line, all of a sudden, once you do start going, you gain a little bit of momentum. And one of the things that I always tell people is like, okay, well, you go and try this thing and you didn't like it. Well, hey, guess what? Now you don't like that.
Exactly.
So you cross it off the list. So
Yes.
you're narrowing things down, and that's awesome. And, a lot of it, I think, just comes down to that perspective. And as important as it is, I think, to always, have your head on straight and, you've got a good idea what the world looks like. Well, you can change your perspective of what it looks like any which way you want. And, it takes a lot of practice. I mean, trust me, there's a lot of times where I am out there and it is like a lightning squall day. And I'm basically training my brain to say like, wow, that was a real pretty bolt of lightning. and sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But it is. It's one of those things where at least it's something we have control over. But I think it's something a lot of times we don't consider. I know I didn't for a long time in my life, but once I did start realizing that I can kind of control it and I can actually get good at it with practice.
Yes.
Holy cow. The amount of like suffering and discomfort, boredom, any of that stuff that you can endure, and not only endure, but almost kind of enjoy.
Yes.
It's
incredible.
It's
It is.
crazy.
It is. It takes practice for sure. Appreciate the lightning.
Well,
That's
appreciate that lightning bolt over there.
I love it.
Well, and that's one of the neat kind of things about solo sailing is it, not only it's just you, so you got a lot of time on your hands, but you're in your head, like you're just out there. A normal day on the ocean, you're not really doing anything except planning your next meal, and so you get a lot of time to ponder and think and all that stuff, which is, I think, a big proponent of why I'm still not really sold on having like Starlink or anything on the boat.
Yeah.
It gives you the opportunity to essentially cut away at the time that you have out there to be bored and to think of things and to pontificate to yourself, stare at the clouds and do all that stuff. But that's a subject for another podcast.
Oh man.
Hey, can I ask you, so are you going to do the audiobook for?
I am. It's in the works. It is something, man, I've done. So I self-published the book. I did the artwork. I painted the cover. I did the editing. I did, the whole thing. And each aspect was learning another thing. And so diving into the audio aspect, my wife sings, and so she has some recording equipment. She's got all the good stuff. But that aspect, it's one of the few things I have no interest in doing, but I know how critical it is. And I would love to do it, to read it, because everyone's going, so do you have the audiobook? When's that out? Because everyone listens, and I get it. I totally do. But I'm in the process. I've got everything set up, a little sound studio in my garage, and I'm gonna record it. It's a painful thing for me, but it's gonna be done, and that'll be up there on Amazon with the book where it is, Kindle and paperback. Yeah. But I don't know when that's gonna be at. I just got.
I know. Hey, trust me. It was one of the most brutal activities I think I've ever done. I didn't know what a migraine headache was.
I didn't know you had an audio.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh man, so you know.
Yeah, I know. Well, and it took a very long time because I could not figure out how to do it correctly so that it would be approved. It's a lot easier now and all that sort of stuff. But Yeah, it's one of those where I would for sure do it. And the fact that you're going to read it yourself, you've got a great voice for it.
Thank
And
you,
there's
sir.
just something so much better about an audiobook that is actually read by the author. So it's well
Yeah.
worth it for sure.
Yeah.
But, and the only other, just to maybe prove my point about reference, it will give you the end all be all as far as your final edit, because reading that thing out loud you have to read every sentence and you're going to find like 2 or 3 things that you're like,
For sure.
man, why I screwed that up, or that's not the right word. And so like when I am working on my next book and all that sort of stuff, I know that I'm not going to publish it until I've actually done the audio as well, because
Interesting.
I unfortunately threw this book right out into the mix. I was really needed the money at that point.
Mhm.
And so I threw it out there, but it's kind of funny. The people who own the first edition actually say they really like all the mistakes. And I mean, I
That's
spelled
great.
things wrong on the back cover, dude.
I love it. Oh man.
I was totally blind to it. And I still have to, I think I'm pretty sure I still thank Elizabeth, a special thanks to Elizabeth. I am not sure which I appreciate more, your kind words or sharp eye for detail. Either way, thank you so very much. She contacted me after this book had been out for a year and was like, this book's awesome. I love the story, but golly, you got to let me edit that. There's so much wrong.
Oh, it's amazing.
She's like a DC attorney, so I literally sent her the manuscript. She sent it back in 2 days, and it was perfect.
Wow.
Like, it's awesome. I can finally be proud of this thing.
That is awesome. That is great.
Too good. Okay, well, is there anything that you want to plug? Because obviously I'm going to put links in the description of this episode for anything that you want, whether it's the website, any social media stuff, and obviously a link to the book. But is there anything that you want to throw out there right now?
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, the book's available on Amazon, Kindle and paperback, and eventually audiobook. My website, www.shanepollard.com, has all my other links. It's got the artwork and stuff, but it's got all my social media stuff there as well. And that's where you can go to find it. You contact me through there if you have any questions. You want to talk about fear or anything, shoot me a message. I'm open to it. I love having good conversations. So yeah, no, that's where to find it all.
Well, Shane, thank you very much. This is very enlightening, and it's definitely a thought-provoking conversation. Like I'm gonna probably spend a good portion of the day taking a walk outside. I'm up here in northern Michigan, and it's sunny for the first time in a while, and like 40 degrees all of a sudden. So
that's awesome.
Lot to think about. So I thank you for sharing your insights and for being a friend who, out of the blue, 13 years later, we get together and have a great convo.
It's incredible. Thank you, my friend. It's been fantastic. I'm so glad we were able to do this. We have a lot more conversations that we're going to have to get to. Yeah, there's a lot more. Yeah.
100%. Maybe another podcast or two.
I think so. I think so. Fantastic. Right. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cervical cancer is one of the most preventable cancers we face today, yet more than 13,000 women will be diagnosed in 2026 and over 4,000 will lose their lives. Many of these cases happen because screening wasn't done in time. Even with the HPV vaccination, regular screening is still essential. More than half of new cervical cancer cases occur in women who have never or rarely been screened. At LabCorp, we're here to support those conversations and prevention. Visit our women's health page on labcorp.com.
When was the last time you felt in control of your business finances? Expenses tracked, invoices sent, taxes ready. That's where Found comes in. Found brings your banking, bookkeeping, invoicing, and taxes together in one simple app. Manage expenses, invoice clients, send payments, and prep for tax time right where you bank. Join the hundreds of thousands who have already streamlined their finances with Found. Open a Found account for free at found.com. That's FOUND.com. Found as a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services provided by Lead Bank, member FDIC.
In a world of oversharing, dating remains sacred. Meet the new Ashley Madison. Discreet dating, no public posts, no feed. Adults connecting in private. Ashley Madison, blessed are the discreet. Download the app or visit ashleymadison.com/iHeartMedia.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.